White House was asked about this. Karine Jean-Pierre was asked about this yesterday. When it comes to women and men and sports competition, this should be, going into an election, right? This should be the most straightforward, obvious. This is a pitch right down the middle. You've just got to put that in the upper stands. This is so easy. But it's not easy for Joe Biden's White House. It's not easy for his White House press secretary to handle. So instead, when asked should men and women be able to compete separately in sports, here is the non-answer you get from the Biden regime.
Daughters, does he care that girls are allowed to compete in sports without fear of injury? Does he think it's fair for girls to have to compete against biological males?
I just answered the question. It is a complicated issue. It is truly a complicated issue with a wide range of views, There is no yes or no answer to this. It is complicated. There's a rule that the Department of Education has put forward, and we're going to let that process move forward. It is, we want to make sure that while we establish guardrails with this rule, that we also prevent discrimination.
Clay, she can say complicated 5 or 6 times as she does there. It is not complicated, and it is a straightforward yes or no.
So I think it's so interesting if we just go to this as a foundational issue. Because if you are unwilling to say that men are bigger, stronger, and faster than women, and that is the reason why we have a difference between men and women's athletics, then I can't trust anything that you're telling me. Because you are asking me to accept a foundational lie about something upon which I'm an expert. And let me just kind of give people a context on this. Buck, did you see the Little League World Series? Any moment of the Little League World Series in Williamsport, Pennsylvania? It just ended.
No.
Okay, you did not see it. I bet a decent percentage of our audience has watched at some point a Little League World Series game. This year's Little League World Series ended. Congratulations to El Segundo, California. That's the south side of L.A. County. They beat Curacao to win the Little League World Series. California team wins. Kid hits a walk-off home run, 12-year-old kid, and everybody goes crazy. Buck, what would happen if it came out that kid was 15 years old?
Oh, everybody would have freaked out. Can I tell you, this happened in my New York City soccer league. There was a kid who was like 2 years too old to be playing, and it came out after the game, and they had to strike the game. There was a big controversy in the Catholic High School Athletic Association at the time.
It also happened, by the way, in the New York City area. I don't remember the name of the kid, but he was like 2 or 3 years too old. He was a pitcher, and anybody out there who knows, there's a big difference between a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old, right? First of all, a 15-year-old can have a mustache. He can have gone through puberty. He can be a flamethrower. There's a big difference. Everybody out there would react with indignation if this occurred. I went to Cooperstown, New York for a 12U baseball tournament. People remember I broadcast from up there. You had to give the original birth certificate. In order for your kid, you couldn't even have a copy of the birth certificate in order to verify that your kid was the right age. I know this because I lost the original birth certificate in the process of traveling to Cooperstown, New York. And let me just say, Mom does not look fondly upon Dad if Dad loses the original copy of the birth certificate after being told, make sure you do not lose this, okay? So I lost
Mom may have a point there.
Mom may have a point. We lost the original birth certificate. We had to get a new one for my 12-year-old. My point on all this is, aggressively, you have to monitor for Little League sports the age upon which the participants are, because 1 or 2 years can make a tremendous difference in the competitive outcome. Now imagine that you have, and by the way, oftentimes, especially when you get to 12 or 13 years old, that's because puberty hits, and puberty changes everything in all facets of life, including how big, strong, and fast boys are. Okay? So, as they become men. No one would argue this. I don't think there's anyone out there who would argue, Buck, hey, I could be trans age. I'm not 12, but I feel like a 12-year-old, and therefore I should be able to compete against 12-year-olds. Your age is a biological reality, just like your sex is a biological reality. And the refusal of the White House to address this is, I think, a foundational failure that should be attacked because it demonstrates how much of their organization and their party right now is built on a foundation of lies.
Well, it's a reminder of the initial lie, and this is what consistently aggravates me about this, the initial lie of the Biden administration, which, because I remember the whole thing was while he was hiding in the basement, we're all scared of COVID, and the BLM rioters are looting and destroying and burning things down. It was, oh, good old Grandpa Joe. He's not an extremist. He's not going to take far left positions. And some of us were saying it was actually a common thing at the time to point out that he was a Trojan horse. That's what we're all saying. He's a Trojan horse for the left. We all remember the ancient Greek mythology, the Homeric epic. The horse comes in and a bunch of Greeks drop out and they burn Troy to the ground, right? So he was meant to be exactly what he is, which is, oh, don't worry. Joe Biden, good old Grandpa Joe, doesn't think that your 12-year-old or your 5-year-old, should be told that he or she is trans by teachers, should be able to have hormone blockers, should allow a 15-year-old with, a mustache who's a guy to compete against the 15-year-old girls team. Joe's not going to do that. Of course he is. And it goes to the power that the activist left has within their party. Remember that there are whole organizations that raise tens of millions of dollars, have tremendous power and influence in the legacy media that need a new crusade. They probably don't like that term, but a crusade to push. And what else are they going to do? Right? What is the great civil rights struggle, according to the left of modern day? It is to think that men can be women, men can be women, women can be men, and this is effectively a state of mind. Here's one for you, Clay. Why is it that physicality does not determine gender, but to be transgender, you need to have the trappings of perceived femininity or being a woman? Why must you, if having a penis does not make you a man, why do you have to have the penis removed to be a transgender woman? What difference does it make? They don't have answers for this.
And again, I think that this really blows up when you go, okay, can you be trans age? I'm 44. If I felt like I was 16.
I mean, we both look young for our age, to be fair. So we do defy the age categorization.
You look
a little
young
bit.
for your age. I might look old for my age. But if I felt trans age and I wanted to go back to high school and I wanted to play high school football, let's say, should I be able to do that? What about if I woke up today, Buck, and I felt like I was a Filipino? Should I be able to identify, should I be transracial? And could I say to everyone, hey, I'm Filipino? And by the way, it's not just me acting like it. It's me acting like it, and you have to acknowledge that even though it's fundamentally not true, right? I'm a white guy. I'm 44. But if I want to be, why is it that you have to respect if I say I'm a woman, but if I say I'm a 16-year-old Latino woman, you say, oh, you're not 16, you're not Latino, but you are a woman. Like, why is one lie acceptable and have to be acknowledged as a truth when it is definitively a falsehood?
This also goes to, they got to this point, the activist community of the left with the trans issue, the LGBTQIA plus, and they have truly added numerous letters to this in recent years. I mean,
basically the whole alphabet now.
It's so big as an acronym that it no longer serves the purpose of an acronym, which is to make it easier to refer to something, right? It would be easier to come up with some other designation. But as they've done this over time, a big way they've gotten to this point, and the media demands this, a lot of corporations demand this, is they say it's a function of being polite. It's a function of being nice. Why can't we turn this around very simply and say, we don't even have to discuss everything else that is at issue here, but can we just agree that it's not polite to let a biological male destroy women in sports and to make a mockery of their athletic achievements? Like, when does politeness or, decency become something that the other side is expected to engage in here? And I think that that's another place where they have no answer. We've all seen this. I mean, you see these guys. You saw the champions, quote, champion female swimmer for UPenn. And we've seen now, I think there's like a rugby player in New Zealand or Australia who's, like weighs 240 pounds. He's like stiff arming all the women, throwing them around. I mean, the whole thing is absurd. It is the Macho Man Randy Savage South Park skit made real. And Joe Biden, it's not just the act. It is this White House, this Democrat Party that looks at the American people and says, yeah, this is normal.
And this is why you have to attack it. And by the way, credit to the White House press corps. I would say keep asking this question. And I would love to hear someone ask legitimately Joe Biden if he ever sits down for an interview. And I mean, I think this is a good way for you all out there to ask as well. If we say that it's racist to change your race, and I haven't heard anybody, Buck, say you can be trans age. Why can you lie about why can you not lie about your race and your chronological age? That's unacceptable, but you can lie about your sex. Why? Like, how do you distinguish those three clearly immutable biological realities in some form or fashion? Race is far less of a
race is
legitimate
actually
thing.
Mixed, as we all know.
Yes.
Everyone has components.
So
of
many different
races.
backgrounds.
And that's actually arbitrary cultural policing that people engage in when they say you're appropriating it. You can't have your hair that way, or you can't, listen to that music or whatever. That's completely arbitrary. That's all based on power dynamics. Meanwhile, biological gender reality is that is a penis. You are a man.
Yes.